Well, if you're like most people, you ask them what they do for a living. You ask them, what do you do? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you guys what I do for a living. I'll start with what I do now, which is work at the city of Bellingham, and I'll work my way back. But I think you should know that this is not lineal. I've done all of these things intertwined with each other. I surveyed back in the 90s, and I got back into it, later on, and I did these other things in between. So it's not a lineal thing. So what I do at the city of Bellingham is I work in the survey department. And when I first started, the survey department in the GIS, which is Geographic Information, anybody know what that is? Well, it's a database basically of information about, in the city's case, it can be many different things, of what all the pipes are in the city and what their diameters, just any information that the city has. And it's graphically shown on a map, and that's what GIS does. And my goal when I started there was to do both, GIS and survey, because there's really a lot of friction between these two groups, and I want to bring it together. So I actually got to do that for a few years. I worked as a GIS and survey tech for a while. And that worked out really nice, but then they changed everything around at the city, and now we're in the engineering department. So now I'm in survey/engineering, and I do a little bit of survey, a little bit of drafting, and things like that. And I also work out in the field. So you see, I do a lot of different things. And I manage some databases, which cued me into the fact that I'm a nerd. And I always thought I was one of the cool people, but the fact that I enjoy this, oh my God, it happened. So anyways, that's what I've been doing in recent years. Before that, I worked in wood. I worked in, starting with shingle mills, and then just other cedar mills. I've got a grading certificate. And I can grade lumber, and I worked for Bellingham Marine for a while in their wood shop, manufacturing these huge wooden components for concrete floating docks. So I've worked with a lot of tools, radial arm saws, planers, and they have the big tools, so I think I have a list here somewhere, which I have. Oh yeah, drill presses, finger joint machines, you name it. Any kind of big wood stuff I've done. And I enjoyed that work to a point. I loved it when I was younger, in my 20s, my 30s, because I was getting paid to exercise, and that was just great. But, in your 40s and your 50s, you're just getting paid to get beat up, So I thought I'd have to do a little change there. So that was kind of, I did that off and on, different places. And when I wasn't doing that or between jobs, I would go to LA or Seattle or sometimes Portland and work in film as a scenic artist. And this is, everything's all about glamorous thing. You met stars, And I met Stephen King. I did meet some stars and some famous people. But mostly it was really hard work. What we did is we took these new sets built by the carpenters, days before, prepped and painted them to look perfect, and then made them look old and beat up using tricks of the trade. And it was fun work, On Rose Red, I worked on Rose Red, that miniseries by Stephen King. They filmed in Seattle. There were acres of fake wood. And that was something that I was so good at because I knew what wood was supposed to look like. So that worked out really well for me. I did a lot of faux wood finishes for that. In all my jobs, that I've had, they've been challenging for me because they've been non-traditional for women, for the most part, especially when I started. And I met those challenges, and you can do. Thank you.